so hello everyone. This is the first installment of the Theory Center podcast from Bielefeld. This is Zoltán, Boldizsár, and
Lars Deile,
and our first guest is
Ethan Kleinberg.
So hello Ethan.
Hi Zoltán. Hi Lars.
So we are going to have 5 questions to you, and then we will just start it right away. Lars?
Yeah, Ethan, can you briefly explain what you are doing professionally, as if you were explaining it to children?
As if I was explaining to children.
Yeah.
Well, what I do, I think, professionally is try to work through very difficult problems almost as though I was an acrobat of thought. So in doing this, I'm trying to make things clear and accessible, but I'm often doing it in ways that, like an acrobat, appear to be quite difficult moves that a normal person or scholar wouldn't necessarily make. If I do it right, it's elegant and exciting, like an acrobat, but if I do it wrong, I fall on my face.
Okay, great.
Okay, so we know, and then other people yet do not know, that you are working on theory of history. So now, after the fun question, we have a serious question as well. How did you get to the field? How did you get to historical theory?
Yeah, so I started in philosophy, actually, when I was an undergraduate, and I took an intro to philosophy class with Feyerabend at UC Berkeley, and that sort of changed my mind about a lot of things. And then I worked with Hubert Dreyfus, first on Heidegger, and then on Foucault, Kierkegaard, and these became really important to me, but I realized as I went along that the questions I wanted to ask were historical questions, and not the questions bound by philosophy and the American system. So I then wrote my undergraduate thesis with Martin Jay. And then following from there, I went to UCLA, and at UCLA, well, I was part of a cohort where we'd meet in the library regularly to read history and theory. And so this became an important part of my formation and my interests. And then even in the first book that I wrote, many of the figures I investigated in the reception of Heidegger in France were ones for whom history was a problem. So it became an object of investigation, but also a moment of rethinking the problem itself. So it was sort of a dream in the end to end up at Wesleyan in proximity to history and theory.
And now you're one of the most prominent people in the field. And how would you convince, let's say, Richard Evans about the importance of theory in history?
Well, that's a good and difficult question. Well, for one aspect is I would say that, whether or not you want to use theory explicitly in your work, in terms of training, I don't see how it could be harmful in any way to ask historians to think about the past and what they do in a more sophisticated or difficult way. It may be the case in physics departments you have a separation between applied and theoretical physics, but everyone gets training in both so that they're adequately informed to do what they want to do. But beyond that, I think that having an ability to grasp and articulate the suppositions by which you do your history is one way to keep you from starting to reify or naturalize the discipline itself in a way that closes you off from newer possibilities, or even being more attuned to the past in ways that I think surely would make you a better historian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, next question. After you successfully convinced Richard Evans about the importance of theory of history, what would you tell him about where do you think the whole field, historical theory, or just generally speaking, theoretical work on history is heading?
Well,
in the near future.
Well, first of all, I would hope that it would be heading into the pedagogy of most advanced history departments. Mm-hmm. So that would be if I did convince him, I think that maybe I might be able to make that case. Mm-hmm. But I think that then for theory itself, the places that it's going actually is this, first of all, this expansion globally, in being able to understand different logics of history. of being able to understand the way that things that conventionally we have thought of outside of we'll call it a Western or European construct of history, that sort of don't count or have to have caveats, actually can contest some of the logics that have been applied and allow us to think differently and newly. So that sort of possibility for understanding, what you might call regional ontologies or different understandings, different places, is one area. But then the other is toward these questions of time and temporality, which increasingly I see explored by theorists of history, philosophers of history, but is something that actually is really not explicitly thought by historians in most cases. Even if they do a history of time, it's sort of evidence of the way people talk about time at different moments without an awareness of the way that they are applying a temporal scaffold themselves. And so I think that's another place that it's going. And then this opens up other fields too, involving perhaps image. And I think the theory of history is moving toward questions of image in relation to representation, because I think the forms of writing history are changing. And I think in one way they're changing is to include aspects of the visual, but maybe even the oral, the audio as well. So these are places that I think are exciting. I think exciting work's being done.
Yeah, great.
So, yes, our fifth and last question is actually a set of questions.
Okay.
A bunch of questions, and then these are either or questions, and then you are expected to have an answer, like an instantaneous answer without much thinking, and then you can reflect on it afterwards.
In American game shows, this is called the lightning round.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
That's
so
where we took it up from. That's where we took it up from. So, Star Wars or Ben-Hur?
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Okay, then Napoleon or Copernicus?
Copernicus.
Derrida or White?
Oh.
We knew that. That's why we are asking.
Yikes. Derrida.
Okay.
Okay, in case it's Derrida, then Derrida or Foucault?
Derrida.
Shall we go on with that though? We ask just past or future?
Future.
Okay, and the last one, very easy. History or theory?
Theory. Which tips my hand.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you very much, Ethan.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Lars.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Zoltán.